Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast. I'm really delighted about today's sponsored episode, Jim Fortin. And he's based out of Sedona, Arizona, and he helps individuals through all walks of life. For the audience, it's doctor, lawyer, dentist, accountants, and help them through career transitions, help them to have new meaning, new heights in businesses, better relationships, all of that. And he's here to talk about that and want to welcome him to the show. So, Jim, welcome.
Thank you for the invite. I'm glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to you and I helping some people today.
Yeah. And briefly chronicle your journey and what you do, and we'll dive into the content.
Yeah, we have to move really fast because we're on limited time. So I'm going to move fast with what I do. I've been in the personal development field since 1993. Prior to that, I was an entrepreneur, lost all of my money in forex, and I started thinking, how do people come back from this? I was making really good money back in the late 80s when I lived in Austin, and I thought, how do people come back from this? And I recognized that money is mental. Money is a mental game. Money is part of our self identity and our ego. And I grew up a poor kid. So in South Texas, we didn't have any money. And so I learned at an identity level, a subconscious identity level, that life is hard. You've got to struggle, and we're poor people.
Mm.
So then I started studying what the motivational speakers, and it wasn't enough. It was fluff. I got into neurolinguistics, and I needed to go beyond that. NLP. I started studying hypnosis, and then I started learning to reprogram my subconscious mind to that of a wealthy person. And that's brought me where I am today. I've done this for many years. I teach all around the world. This is what I do. I help people transform their life from the inside out, which everything starts on the inside.
Interesting. And I love starting about talking about because this podcast showcases entrepreneurs and businesses. And so, what's your client avatar? Who comes to work with you? Who comes to seek you?
What's interesting is it's not so much your demographic, but it is your demographic. And what I mean by that is I attract to a large degree, people that are what I would call non-denominational spiritual entrepreneurs, people that would follow maybe like Deepak Chopra, Anthony Weil, people like that. Anthony Weil, his name might be Wayne Dyer. That's the group I attract a lot of healers in that genre,
Hmm.
people that are doing different modalities, chiropractic, Reiki, acupuncture, all these kinds of things. But I tend to attract a large degree of spiritual health related entrepreneurs.
Oh, interesting. And what are they struggling with? Finances, relationships, body, nutrition, energy, career? What are they struggling with?
The number one thing I hear is that people enroll in my 13-week program, which is I've done it for years now, a 13-week program where I group coach people in the program. And 9 times out of 10, people say they come for money. They're struggling in business. And I hear that all the time. And then what I hear by about week number 3 is I thought I came for money. I thought I came to build my business. I recognize my business is a reflection of me at my identity level, how I see the world, my self image. Until I shift my self image, I'm not going to shift my business. So the avatar is entrepreneurs, and again, a large degree of health entrepreneurs that are wanting to grow in business, but it goes to many other areas for them because they recognize they've got to literally fix the entire foundation, not just business.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. It's like you come for one thing, but you discover there's so much other things. Diving into the question, what I really love is you see a lot of clients and you heal. What is the number one problem that people are, why is there so much suffering in the world today? We're on the brink of a civil
Yeah,
war,
yeah.
etc. What's going on?
People don't know themselves.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is a tree doesn't set fire to branches on the other side of the tree. The whole tree is going to burn down. And a tree recognizes it's one organism. I'm not going to set part to the other half of me and burn myself down. We as humans, we get so stuck in our human ego about being Russian or Australian or American or Chinese or whatever. And then we fight, in my opinion, in my observation, I have a degree in political science and psychology. I used to work with a global leader in the humanities, a person that's brought together 1,000 world leaders 6 times. I've known this man 20 years. The Dalai Lama, Mother Teresa, Carl Sagan, Gandhi's grandkids, Gorbachev, James Baker, people like that. So I'm relatively well versed in this. And But from a spiritual perspective, people don't know themselves, and they don't know that we're all on the planet breathing the same air, drinking the same water, and our survival is dependent upon each other. But yet, for nationalism, we tear other people down because we're better and it gives us ego advantage. So,
Mm.
in my humble opinion, the number one thing that people don't have is critical awareness about higher function of them, their being, and their mind. Most people don't know how to be. They're human doings, and then they do things that are horrible or destructive to other people. We have to recognize we are all beings first.
Interesting. Yeah, I know. I just you just go on like a subway or a bus, and just people are just like on their cell phone, just flipping through and just not aware. And I think our society thrives on people fighting each other and just this what's so prevalent. So then,
Well, it makes
my
people money. It makes people money. People doom scroll, all of this here. When people are doom scrolling on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, they're making Mark Zuckerberg money, bottom line. Why? Because the more you stay and the more you scroll, and they've got to lead with fear and controversy, which is what the algorithms put in front of people. So
Mhm,
what happens is the brain is hardwired to avoid fear and to avoid danger. So if all the news is about fear and danger, we keep
mm,
checking the news. We keep checking the news. That means Fox and CNN and Zuckerberg and all the rest can make a lot of money off our eyeballs buying stuff
mm,
off from ads we see. It's a money game. It's a money racket. I'm sorry. It's just a reality. It's a money racket. And that's
mhm,
also because people don't know themselves. People chase greed and money like dogs fight for a bone. They think money's their savior. Money's a product of our being, not of what we do, because you can do all things all day long, like Mike Tyson, and make $300 million and then lose every bit of it. It all goes back to the identity, and we have to know ourselves. Sorry for interrupting your question.
no, because I was gonna ask you, because you mentioned money as a construct is something that we constructed. When we all die, we can't take our
Hey,
physical possessions or
yeah,
so why do we start wars? Why do we kill each other? Why do we steal from each other for this concept of money? What is going on there?
I want to back up for people listening. I've apprenticed with a real shaman, not a somebody who calls himself a shaman, but a real shaman, like you would find in the Amazon that people would go to for healing or spiritual growth or whatever. I've apprenticed with a shaman for 28 years now, and my short answer is going to be fear. We fear things that don't look like us or things that look different than us, and we fear that we're going to lose. Humans only have two emotions, fear and love. Most people live in the fear of, let me preserve my identity of being an American or being Chinese or being Australian or whatever it is. Let me preserve that identity. Let me wrap borders around my country. Let me take other people's property and these things that we do. And it's
Mhm,
all fear based. If we truly knew that we're all on one tree, like I talked about, we wouldn't be burning down the other side of the tree. Humanity said, I was told, I don't know if it's true or not, but I was told from the shaman that I work with,
mhm,
is that humanity has erased itself from the planet 5 times. We've hit extinction 5 times.
mm,
We're on that way right now. We've already extincted or created extinction for 60% of animals on this planet.
mm.
Humans aren't far behind at this point. And look what's happening in the world right now, all for what? All for real estate and national identity,
Yeah.
which, by the way, no one's born with national identity. You're born where you're born and dropped off where you're dropped off. Generally
Mhm,
speaking, if you're Jewish in the Middle East, you were born in Israel. If you're born in Bangladesh, you're probably going to be, I think, Islamic or India, Hindu or Islamic, or in American Christians. We learn these identities as a result of where we're dropped off on the planet, and then we identify with the identity, and then most people fight for their identity. It's a lack of awareness.
mm. Interesting. Yeah. I can, because I was born here, but people view me as Asian or Chinese, where I don't have any relationship with that culture. I'm American, but people still
Sure.
view me as an outsider. So another question I have for you is for people listening to this, so we're talking about this awakening, and we have a lot of doctors, lawyers, accountants,
Right.
millionaires,
Professionals.
and they're like, yeah, something's really wrong, and it may take a divorce or health scare or whatever to wake them up and they lose everything. How do you begin this process of rebuilding when they had like tens, hundreds of millions, and they have to start all over? What's going on there? How do you start that process?
That's a big question. And what I look at first off, let's go to money because a lot of your people, you're a financial guy. Okay. In my opinion, I've learned over the years that we approach money backwards.
Mm,
So I have on my desk here some silver coins. These are all just silver coins. Each one is what, worth $38 today or something like that. Okay. Now, if I took this silver coin or money and I took this silver coin and I taped it to this board behind me and I sealed my house and no one came in my house for 100 years, this silver coin would still be taped to the wall. The reason why, and here's where humans get it backwards. Most humans give all of their power to the money, and then they chase money and they beg for money and they steal for money and they kill for money. The reality is, if I left this on the wall for 100 years and this house was sealed, I would come back and this would still be taped to the wall. Money in and of itself has no power and no value except the value that humans give it. So, what
mm,
humans do is they give all the value to the money. Money has, let me put it this way, money has no power. Money cannot spend itself. It's humans that imbue money with power. But yet, yeah, we're the one with the power, but we give the power to the money and then we chase the money and we're the one that gave it the power. So it's a realization of that we're living backwards. I grew up a small town Texas farm boy. We didn't have any money. I'm a multimillionaire many times over at this point, and I've learned to do it through shifting my thinking about how I approach money and how I approach the world.
mm,
I know that for us to attract money, we have to have the identity of somebody that's very wealthy. And if we're making money and losing money or never making money, I'm going to use an example that's a lot of people have a challenge with this example, but it'll be very poignant. Whether you like him or you don't like him doesn't matter. It's not what we're talking about. Donald Trump. I used to speak at the same events as Donald Trump. Didn't like him back then either. I'll just say that. But I used to speak at the same events as Donald Trump. And one day, this is back 20 years ago, and one day I heard him say that he was dead broke in 1992. He said he was walking in New York City and there was a homeless guy in the street, and he thought that homeless guy has more money than I do. At least he's broke. I'm $2.9 billion in debt. Now, however he makes his money legitimately, how did Donald Trump become a billionaire again? See, even though he was broke in his environment, he was always wealthy in his internal environment. He was always rich in his identity. What we do in the world will always correspond to the identity and how we see ourselves. So, what I look at is, what is your financial identity? And you don't have to think about that. Look at your environment. If you look at which is your bank account and your home and your car, if you look at your environment, what does your bank account say? It says you're broke. Many people try to do things. I call it be to have. You've got to be to do to have. Many people try to do things, not recognizing it's their being, their characteristics and ways of thinking that have caused them to be broke or to be rich. So the first thing we've got to adjust is our subconscious identity. Said a lot. I'm sorry about that. But I needed to get that out.
yeah, and then and a lot of people, and apologies if there's people just started mowing the lawn, but how do people go from this having a lot of or people have an unhealthy relationship with money? How do people start to repair their relationship with money?
Let's look at what the relationship is. I gave somebody the example yesterday, is the number one way to repair the relationship, and you've heard this in its ancient wisdom. Ancient Chinese culture is very wise, as in Greece or other countries in the world. And there's a lot of ancient wisdom out there. I follow science, but I also follow the ancient ways to corroborate the science. Okay. Many people call, for example, things that might be new age or whatever, people call it woo, but a lot of woo is backed up by science this day and age. Look at the double slit experiment. Look at consciousness, which is the most advanced science on the planet. Here's what I look at first. Look at your money. Look at what you actually have, just objectively. That represents your relationship with money. And the easiest way to fix this, think about being married. I don't know if you're married or not, but people are. Think about being married. Many people listening. If you go home to your partner, your wife, whatever, and you're yelling and screaming and saying, "You never do enough for me. I don't care. You're never here for me. You never do enough. You're never here when I need you." What kind of relationship do you have at home? You don't have a good one. That's most people's relationship with money. You are never enough. The relationship I have with money is, thank you. I've got money. I can eat today. I've got shelter today. I've got a car today. Of course, I've got a Porsche and a nice home and I can eat what I want. But I was poor. There's one time I was many years ago, digging in the back of my car for $1 to buy a can of tuna and macaroni and cheese. I've been there before. So I recognize that what is my relationship with money? And we learn backwards because as a kid, I'm 60. When I was 5, my mom said, if you'll clean the flower bed, I'll give you a dime because I wanted to buy a Coke in 1970. And so I recognized if I do something and I do labor, I'm going to get paid. And that's what we do in our culture. We recognize if we do a lot of labor, we're going to get paid. But I see people doing a lot of labor, they don't get paid very much. They hate what they're doing. And I back up and I say, you know what? What is my relationship with money? How can I show more respect for it? How can I open up to it? How can I attract it? And how can I understand it? So, did that answer? Respect for money and gratitude. Let me
Yeah.
give you one more tip for people listening. When we spend money, let's say we have $10, but it could be 100,000, a million, 10 million, whatever. Let's say we have $10 and we have to spend seven. Now we work from, oh my God. I mean, we spend three. We work from, oh my God, I've only got $7 now. That's not where I work from. I just went and bought my lunch at Whole Foods and I gave them money and I got a spinach chicken wrap. Do you know how hard it would be for me to grow the chicken, to grow the spinach, to make the tortilla, to make the mayonnaise, to grow the tomatoes, all these kind of things? It cost me $10.99. Many people, when they pay for that, they grumble. I thank them. Why? Because they brought value into my life. So when I put money out, I used to grumble, bills, taxes, all these kind of things. I don't grumble anymore. I thank the money for what it's given me. That is a
Mhm.
big shift right there for a lot of people.
Yeah. The other question I have for you is, so for example, take someone that's struggling financially and they need the money now, they to pay their bills, but they don't have the money.
Right.
And so how do they begin, like obviously they need money to eat and where etc. So how do they get out of this position using what you've taught?
It's an ancient way and it's a logical way, but it's the hardest way for most people. Okay. I had a student yesterday saying, I'm still afraid. I'm still afraid. I don't have any money. I don't have any money. This guy's 50. He's living with his parents. I'm just so afraid. Here's the reality. I actually shockingly got the trademark for a phrase called be, do, have. We must be before we can do, before we can have. So, for example, you went to medical school, you did some things, right? But how were you being first? You were being driven, you were being motivated, you were being curious, you were being desirous of learning. Your being preceded what you did, and then what you did preceded what you have. When people are struggling with money, the first thing they think is, okay, I need money. I'm going to go do and do, not recognizing that their doing is only as effective as the being doing the doing. So if the being is afraid, oh my God, I can never make any money. I can never make any money. I can never make any money. How's that going to filter into their doing? You're a doctor. What if you were in college and you're like being afraid in college, going, I'm doing this homework, but I just can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. You would never be a doctor. You've got to get, and this is not cliche, you've got to get your mind, and I don't mean mindset, beyond that. You've got to get your identity at a subconscious level in the right place to do the things you need to do to create what you want to create. So the hardest thing for people is to get out of their fear when they don't have any resources. And where I go is this reality. Okay, I got to stabilize my boat. You know what? I don't have any money right now. Let me accept that. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not afraid of it. Here's what it is. The old phrase, when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. Stop digging mentally. Here's where you are. Okay, here's where I am. Shift your thinking from worry to resolution. When you're in worrying, you're using a different part of the brain. When you're in resolution, now you're problem solving. Shift your thinking to problem solving. Okay, what are my skills? What can I do? How can I generate revenue? How can I create value? What skills can I use to actually help other people live better lives they will pay me for? And let me get on that foundation and start building. And final comment, it's not going to change overnight. You didn't get there overnight, and it's not going to change overnight. It's a process, and you have to accept that.
Yeah, really fascinating. Another, I know we have around 7 more minutes, and another hypothetical, because you mentioned paying for goods and services, but for example, like a lot of people, they are, for example, our tax base is being wasted. It's the Doge wars and fraud and corruption.
We're on the same page about where I can read between the
Yeah.
lines. We're on the same page. I
Yeah.
get it. Yeah.
So you're saying feel grateful for paying this, but it's just being wasted when you could take this couple hundred K and invest it in to build more value. So how do you reconcile that?
Speaking transparently, the most I've ever paid in quarterly taxes is $800,000 in quarterlies. Okay. It all goes to the government. I don't get a choice in the matter. If I don't pay it, I'm going to get arrested at my income level. Okay. And I'm going to tell you what my brother in law said, a shaman. By the way, he's world famous. He's not famous. Somebody wrote his life story. It's been around for 40 years. It's one of the most famous stories in the world about shamanism and healing and spirituality. But we were talking about taxation one day with my brother in law, the shaman. And somebody in the conversation was saying it's unethical not to pay taxes. And my brother in law said, you want to talk about unethical? You talk about a government that forces you, meaning me, to pay 38% of your income. They do things with it that you would never condone, never invest in, never support, and you can do nothing about it. That is unethical. And that's the way the world is right now. And that's what it is. But that's why we're in some very challenging times right now. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see ourselves in civil war in 2 years. Right now, the old phrase, a house divided against itself will collapse. There's somebody that's a leading voice in this country that's divided the country. People don't have critical thinking skills. We live in a country where the average reading age is seventh grade. People don't have critical thinking skills. Also, the platform Make America Great Again, it appeals to a certain amount of the population. Why? Because if America is not great and I'm a nationalist, that causes me pain and fear. Pain and fear, the brain's wired for pleasure. So if that's causing me pain and fear, I got to fix that. So that's why so many people are hopping on that bandwagon. But right now, it's like one of my students said yesterday, it's a dumpster fire in this country. So what I look at is how can I help people and how can I protect my finances? I had a friend ask me today, and I said, move some of your currency maybe to foreign currency, maybe move it to a more stable foreign currency, get it out of the dollar, because at some point, this is all going to come crumbling down. Who knows when? And I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't. But at some point, it ain't looking good.
Yeah, and I know a lot of the audience and listeners, they echo with what you're talking about, and so really fascinating. And I love how you're reframing. If people wanted to check out your podcast, your resources, connect with you, how could they do that?
Yeah, my podcast, it's one of the top podcasts in the world on Apple's and Spotify. I'm in the top 1/10 of 1% of podcasts, top 100 and top 50 in two categories, personal development and education. It's the Transform Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. Transform your life from the inside out. I do want to say it's not for everyone. It is for people that are forward thinking progressive. I don't mean politically, but evolving as a being, evolving as a person, knowing there's got to be more to life. And what have we learned about the world that's not true? Also, I want to give your listeners a gift. I have a program called the Be to Have Challenge. We renamed it to Getting Unstuck Challenge. It's a 9-day challenge. I've sold thousands of them for $97. I want to give it to your listeners for free. If they go to jimfortin.com/Lou, your last name, jimfortin.com/Lou, they can download it and it will help them take apart how they've learned to view the world and rebuild it in a new way from an identity level. So
Mm.
hopefully that'll help people out as well.
Oh, excellent. Thanks so much, Jim. And I really enjoyed talking with you. And thanks so much for coming on and providing so much value to the audience.
Thank you for inviting me today. I really appreciate it. And this is what I tell people, the world needs people that are evolving and growing. The more we evolve and grow, the more we can help people in a better world for all of us. Thank you for being here and thank you for the invite.